care probably won't.
Big boy's back!
9 to noon.
This is an old-fashioned ass-kicking right here. Just listen.
There are many, many positives I can get out of this game.
Ooh!
The Vikings.
Okay, calm down.
Oh, my God! You lucky suckers.
You want to change the conversation? Win some games.
The Duke! The Duke! The Duke is on fire! Here we go now. On a Thursday, it's 9 to noon. Paul Allen, Nordo, FM 100.3, KFAN. The butt bit went fine.
Can you repeat the part of the stuff where you said all about things?
Did you give updates on the butt bit yesterday? Because I was getting some text messages like periodically, between 9 and noon.
Oh yeah,
saying like News Do Nordo gave an update on the colonoscopy. And boom!
No, we tried to keep people posted. The text line, you wouldn't believe it. Hundreds of people, no hyperbole, wanting minute-by-minute updates as fast as they could in terms of...
And he's loose!
To make sure that I had been receiving, and I framed it up like this. I have received proof of life confirmation that this is no longer a thing.
He's loose!
And that everything's fine. We'll deal with this in 5 years. And as you said it, the butt bit.
The butt bit
was a successful operation.
The Dan Hayes interview I heard driving to Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center to memorize numbers and body types for the Life Changer, August 10th, 3 o'clock, U.S. Bank Stadium, preseason Raiders.
Shoulders are looking big.
With the trading deadline having come and gone, I mean, he made the clubhouse sound like a cross between a mutiny and that of just ultimate chagrin.
Yeah, no, everyone's hurt.
I'm like, damn, they're going to get killed today. I mean, they're just upset, didn't bring anybody in. Management doesn't believe in us, don't care about the TV deal. It's just woe begone type stuff. And then they can go out there and just whoop ass on the Metropolitans.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and it was great talking with Dan, getting that vibe there, because we know the natives are restless on the fan side. And, we should do this, though. The Twins don't play today. But congratulations for a small convenience charge. Twins fans will be able to watch their favorite team on the major cable provider.
Right.
Congrats to them.
Now, with the butt bit, I'm 3 of those into it. And I've become an elite colonoscopy mind. And the only way to do it, for those of you, pardon the pun, sitting on one, is 8:30 in the morning or sooner. I mean, I made a key decision to wake up the day before at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
So you get super tired at 7:30, or 8, and then you just kind of sleep your way through the hunger. And then you get up again at 4. I think it's magnesium citrate that you got to take.
Okay.
And then there's not much waiting around.
Well, and the cool thing about it, too, is you're so locked into this process. You know, they said, Paul, we'll see you in 5 years. And you say, well, how about I see you in 6 months?
I always like that one.
Above average.
I go to MNGI in Bloomington. And that's where I've had all 3 of the colonoscopies. And everybody there is absolutely fantastic. Your announcer is probe and scope free for 5 years, and that's a beautiful thing. A tiny bit of a weird situation when I learned the doctor executing said procedure was a Green Bay Packers fan.
I always love that one.
So I demanded a change, and they acquiesced. I'm just kidding. My doctor, a Dr. Watson, indeed loves the purple and treated your announcer with kid gloves and tender loving care. Of course, that's after I attempted to slide both the anesthesiologist and anesthetist $500 each to make sure the anesthesia was cranked up to 10. However, they deliver that elixir.
I always love that one.
I'm like, keep turning up the heat, ladies. So the Jim Morrison of announcers has no idea what's going on up there and down here. So to land the plane on the shoot bit, there is a PA in PSA. And men 48 and above, sign up for one of these, all right? The first one I had in 2018, we had a couple of problematic polyps. I had to go back the next year, and they took care of it. So if you let those bad boys linger, it's a cinch. There's a problem. So if you're 48 and older and you haven't had a colonoscopy, I would strongly suggest getting one. MNGI Bloomington. That's where I go, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, J.J. McCarthy is anything but a pain in the butt. It's this whole thing is developing before our eyes and our ears, and I'm loving it. It's the nuance, the quick twitch gifts NFL players and defenses take away from you. Now, no matter if you are a pass rushing whiz, a quarterback, a speedy receiver who thought all your moves at the D1 level would get you open every single time, that ain't the case early in training camp, even for the most gifted. So the goal of those opposing the gifted is to take away what you want to do and what you do incredibly well. But the quick twitch gifts for those who belong, they eventually rise to the surface. The high-enders take them back quickly and gain respect of players team-wide. And here's what I mean. But first, there's no take to the bet. I mean, no change to the take. No change to the bet, no change to the take. I believe Darnold starts when they go to play the New York Giants. Mullins is the backup. McCarthy is the 3. Now, that's not a unique opinion, at least at this portion of the equation. But people are starting to see things in training camp who have sizable followings on the social media platform or Forza, and it just seems that they're starting to elevate McCarthy's depth chart lot in life, maybe a little too early. But the gifts are starting to emerge with this rookie, and I'm extremely excited to see him versus the Raiders. And I don't care if he's playing Max Crosby or Crosby, Stills, and Nash. J.J. McCarthy, you already can tell, and elite college minds, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about, those who watched all of his games. He senses pressure and is quick twitch getting away from it. So like Chains, Kirk O'Chains, Cuzbuzz. Kirk took the hits, and the next play, he'd zap you for 30. JJ ain't trying to take hits and is getting adroit at feeling it early in the rush and moving to the right spots. It's an inherent gift not everybody has who plays that spot. Now, far hash to far sideline, the throws are gaining confidence and accuracy to match the powerful arm. When to fire, when to float, when to loft, when to zing one in there and take a chance. That's all coming together right now before our eyes and ears. And in this Raiders game, this preseason game coming up a week from Saturday, I'm really hoping he gets loose on some runs. I mean, fans are in for a treat because in this Raiders game, the first preseason game, and the expectation is McCarthy not only will play, but hopefully plays a bunch, is in preseason games, period, but specifically the first one, it's my belief that teams don't coach up much game-specific contain for plays in these games. And that's going to play right into the hands of this quarterback who can run. It's a NFL Network game, too. So it'd be really cool if the anti-Vike got an opportunity to see J.J. McCarthy ramble for like 80 and a picturesque score.
I always love that one.
J.J. McCarthy. When he plays full time, this man is going to be an incredibly popular player with the way he handles wins and losses. You can tell he was raised not only within coaching ranks, but just raised by his parents or those who are closest to him. To realize humility is a very, very important characteristic to have for a leader, specifically when you play that spot. And, just knowing some things from him at Michigan, where he didn't lose much and he won a lot, it's the way he handles things. He comes at it with a vulnerable, humility-based approach, and it's authentic and it's natural. But what I believe fans will like a ton is the boy is a gunslinger at heart. I mean, the structure and the schemes of this offense are excellent, but best laid plans don't always work. So I'm seeing a kid who is not afraid to take chances and use the rocket arm to make big things happen, especially when the design ain't there or something breaks down, which happens quite frequently in National Football League regular season games. So I'm really, really happy J.J. McCarthy's on this team, and I enjoy watching a high-end rookie quarterback take baby steps through training camp. I mean, this is a rare situation, here in the cornfields. We can go back to Teddy, and then all of a sudden he lost his knee and really lost the starting status of his career. The kid takes chances, has some gunslinger to him, and he's going to be a treat to watch, even beginning a week from Saturday. Preseason game number 1 against your Las Vegas Raiders. Friends on Foes is next with Vox Bob Wisachusen of the New York Jets. Then, after that, special teams coordinator Matt Daniels gives us tells on what to expect with kickoffs this season and starts by sharing he witnessed something for the first time in his 3 years here Monday at the first padded practice. And he also shares he has a list of non-kickers that may be used to kick off. I mean, this thing has everybody in the National Football League perplexed. You got people wondering what happens when there's a penalty and it's assessed on the kickoff. And I'm like, has that not been explained? Holy cow. TimberTech.com. Thank you for the What's on Deck 9 to noon. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. Friends on Foes handles the New York Jets. Next on KFAN.
So the Jets will try what would be a go-ahead field goal, if not a game-winning field goal, out of the hold of Morstead to try and put the Jets on top. 54 yards away. Hennessy will snap. There it is, the placement down. It's away. It's got the distance. It is good! Greg Zuerlein does it! 5 seconds to go.
Vox.
Friends on Foes today continues, and the New York Jets are the focus. The Vikes Week 5 opponent over at Tottenham Hotspur. Bob Wisachusen is into his 23rd year calling New York Jets football, also calls NHL games and more for ESPN. And here he is. Here's the Vox. Thanks for the time, my man. Are things well?
Yeah, we play the Vikings this year?
Yeah, you play us over there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, how didn't
All right.
You're an elite football.
Last year our season lasted 4 plays, so I'm just trying to get past that. I know we play the 49ers week 1. I haven't moved past that yet.
Well, are you already so far down the road on the nuance of Connor Bedard and like how he matches up against two-way blue liner Brock Faber that you don't even know what the Jets schedule looks like?
Hey, that Brock Faber Kevin Fiala trade, that's a Billy Guerin masterpiece now, right there. Like, that's, come on. Now, that has worked out, right? Like, I agree with my man Billy G. When he said that looking in the rearview mirror at that trade, how can you not like it now?
Right. Hey, Bob, when it comes to calling hockey on ESPN or calling football on the radio, how much different is the preparation?
Well, football on the radio for me, obviously, and you know this because you do the same, half of it is already in the bank, right? Like, you've got a team. So, you know the Vikings, so you don't even need a chart, right? You know everybody on your team. I have the same team every single week. I know them like the back of my hand. That helps. You really only need to worry about the opponent. Hockey for me, because every single game can be two, at times, random teams I haven't even seen yet. It just requires more prep. But it's a lot of the same. It's a lot of name and number recognition, watching games, and memorization. And, you know, hockey moves just so fast, and you never know when they're going to blow the whistle. That's the other nice part about football. Football is so segmented, right? There's a play. The play is over. Your analyst is talking. There's a clock. Anywhere from 25 to 40 seconds. You can watch the sideline. You can see guys leave. You can see guys come out. You can see who changes, who goes in the game. You know, there's a little bit of lead time there, so you're not necessarily taken by surprise as to who the players are. All of a sudden, you know, the puck's down in the right wing corner. It gets shot out the center. You turn your head left, and like 8 new guys are on the ice that weren't there a minute ago.
Right.
So, yeah, that can be a challenge, but yeah, I mean, it's, you know, they're both so much fun, especially when the games matter. And you've had some spectacular, you know, meaningful games, and we're hoping now that if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, the Jets will have the same. You're hoping that the games matter in December, right? And then you go from there. And if you get lucky and you win some of those games in December that matter, and now you really get to play the games in January that matter. Been a long time for the Jets, but that's happened, then that's a real bonus.
With Diggs leaving the division, and Miami's good and Miami's fast, but is the division a little more wide open this year than maybe the last 5-10 years?
I never believed that that's the case until the quarterback leaves the team.
Right.
That's just my belief. Like Keon Coleman, I called some of his games at Florida State. Do I think he is going to be as good as Stephon Diggs on day one? No. Do I think he could potentially become as good as Stephon Diggs? Yeah. Like, I think he's got that kind of a ceiling. But the guy throwing it to him is still there.
Yeah.
And that guy can still run around and make anybody look silly. So how many times did Tom Brady's wide receivers change for 20 years in New England? And how many times did those wide receivers even go to the Pro Bowl?
Right.
Well, like, outside of Randy Moss, who, of course, everyone in Minnesota knows how good Randy Moss was, but run through the rest of Tom Brady's receivers and tell me how many of those guys were anywhere near as good as Randy Moss or even Pro Bowlers.
What? Go ahead.
You know, number 12 was still back there. So that, to me, if they still have Josh Allen, then I don't take them. I don't think they've taken even a small step back as long as they still have their quarterback.
What? Speaking of quarterbacks, what has it been like working with Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I got to work with him so briefly that, you know, I didn't really even get to settle in. You only had a chance really to get to know him a little bit during the preseason. But he was wonderful and has been to me. Anytime I've had a chance to talk to him, super engaging, like talking football, thoughtful answers, happy to come over and do an interview. Like everything that I heard, and maybe just to change the scenery, getting out of like that cocoon in Green Bay and coming to maybe a little bit more of a spread your wings, you know, number one media market. You know, he can go to get out of the, you know, like the jail cell of a really small place, and all of a sudden he's at a Yankee game, he's at a concert, he's at a Knicks and Rangers game, like he's doing things that he probably didn't have a chance to do when he was in Green Bay. I think he really enjoyed that. So maybe that kind of fresh start made him a little bit easier to deal with as well. But all of the things that I heard about the really hard, you know, deep, I experienced and have experienced none of that. He's been great.
What do you think he and Garrett Wilson were talking about in the now ballyhooed exchange?
Oh, I lost you there for a second. Say that one again.
He and Garrett Wilson. What do you think they were talking about in the now ballyhooed exchange?
Yeah, they actually talked about that not long after, and basically, Garrett Wilson said that, Aaron Rodgers believes, because I know Aaron Rodgers has said this to some, that the only way you win on Sunday is if you're just as intense Monday through Friday. And that's exactly what that is and was, right? Like, if you have that kind of, we are not getting it done right now, we are, dragging our rear ends, we got to pick it up. And Garrett Wilson is also an extremely competitive guy. And so that's just a little bit of that, right? Like, it's just two super competitive guys being super competitive and having like a game day attitude on a Tuesday afternoon in training camp. And to me, that's a positive, not a negative. Like, I love when guys are chirping at each other and you see that level of competition. Competition's a good thing. Like, raise that during training camp and then have that on day one. And the fact that those two guys are driving each other and that Aaron Rodgers is, in the ear of a top 10 wide receiver that way, and that a top 10 wide receiver feels comfortable enough to go back at him a little bit and there's a give and take, great. To me, I don't think there's like that will probably only grow the relationship between those two.
Rookie tackle Olu Fashanu. What are you hearing about him? And when he starts, could it be at right tackle?
He could probably start at either. They love him. I think they think he's a 12-year starter, but they're not also blind to the fact that they've got two players that are day one starters and one like a walk-in Hall of Famer in Tyron Smith, right?
Yeah.
So you bring in, and Morgan Moses, you bring in two veteran bookend tackles, but take a look at Smith and take a look at Moses. The last 5 or 6 years, look at the last time that either one of them got through an entire season healthy.
Right.
Right. So to me, that was a very educated pick. We've got these two guys that can absolutely go out and dominate a game for us still when healthy. But let's be honest, they're both way closer to the end of their careers than they are to the beginning. Is either guy going to play 17 games? Either of them. Probably not. So I think Fashanu could end up starting 7 or 8 games between spelling both of them by the time the year's over. And they realized that. They knew they needed a third guy. It's like, right, in baseball, if you can have 3 ace pitchers, you still, by the time 162 games is done, no, you're never going to have enough starting pitching. You just can't have enough of it. I mean, when you get a 40-year-old quarterback, you can't have enough pass protection. And so that's why they drafted him. They also know there's a chance they're going to need him as a starter next year, potentially. I mean, these guys might be a one-year solution. And what better room to sit in if you're Olu Fashanu than to sit next to those two guys in the film room, to be on their hip during training camp, to watch them work, to learn from them, to watch their technique. I mean, that Tyron Smith is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and now you get to pick his brain every day. And that's what we used to, like Jordan Travis from Florida State, just pick him now in the 4th round or 3rd round or whatever, and like he gets to sit in a room with Aaron Rodgers every day. Brilliant, right? Like that's what better way to train a young quarterback? What better way to train a young tackle?
Fox.
That's Bob Wisachusen into his 23rd year calling New York Jets football, and the Vikings hooked the Jets Week 5 at Tottenham Hotspur. If you have any XL Energy games on your schedule, I look forward to it. I'll come up and say hello, and thank you very much for the time.
Yeah, Pat, thank you for reminding me that we needed Week 5. I appreciate that.
Appreciate you. Thank you. That's the
Fox.
Bob Wischusen with the New York Football Jets. We had a tricky phone connection there, to say the least, but hopefully there were a couple of things Vikings heard in the equation. When he said Aaron Rodgers left Green Bay, he first called it a cocoon.
He's out his mind.
And then he basically said leaving Green Bay was leaving a jail cell.
Yeah, I might punch him in the face.
So there's that. This is 9 to noon. 9:35 in the neighborhood. The neighborhood is FM 100.3 KFAN, your home for Minnesota Vikings football, and their special teams into this year. It's extremely compelling. It's just there are some intriguing facets, at least to me, that are going to bear fruit during the course of the season, and I think potentially catch people off guard. Yeah, there's the Alabama rookie kicking. Already won the job. What are they going to do on kickoffs? There's a punter battle between one who passes and another who was a college wide receiver and is incredibly athletic. And I love new and loathe ruts. Same with special teams coordinator Matt Daniels, as you'll hear now.
Cool afternoon, everybody. Good to be back. I always love the nice, fresh smell of cut grass. Football season is underway, and, it's nothing better than when you start to be able to play real football and we put the pads on. It's no longer just T-shirts and shorts. I would say, our first padded practice that we had Monday was probably one of, if not the most physical practices that we've had since I've been here. It's interesting because we're working with these Guardian caps, and so you typically don't hear the cracking of the helmets and the true physicality of it. But when you cut the tape on, there was a lot of violent hands. There was a lot of block destruction going on, some great blocks going on up front within the interior, defensive lineman, offensive lineman. So it was really good to see. And that's really what this camp is really all about, is building up that identity, playing that tough, physical, gritty football play style of what we're looking for, and we're heading in the right direction. Had a little bit of heat, which has been great for us. A little humid, a little hot, which requires a lot more communication, requires a lot of guys to be a lot more dialed in from a mental and physical standpoint, elite communication from a nonverbal and verbal standpoint. So it's been great for the guys to kind of feel that heat, because it's really been testing us in all aspects. With fatigue. Fatigue comes into play, and when guys get tired, they start to get lazy. When it starts coming to the communication, are you really getting it across to all 11 players are all on the same page? So when guys get tired, they're more focused on breathing than they are actually true communicating. So with that, you got to find ways to communicate non-verbally.
Hey, Matt, having several months to reflect on it and then also prepare for it, how are you feeling about the new kickoff rules?
I'm feeling great about the new kickoff. I think it's a great thing that the NFL is doing, trying to, really, I'm all for innovation and creativity at the end of the day. That's kind of what the game needs. Not to say that the old kickoff kind of felt a little staunch, but it's good to have we're looking to try to introduce a new kickoff rule where, we increase the amount of plays from a special team standpoint, decrease the amount of concussions that does take place. How can we limit the high-speed collisions that happen? And, at the end of the day, it's going to give a lot more opportunities to a lot more guys. Maybe you might be able to put, some more starters out there just because you're eliminating the running phase of it. It's going to require a lot more creativity, scheming, schematically, coaching is going to be heavily involved in it. And so with that, it's a challenge, but all of us should really embrace the challenge, because that's all a part of it, just our growth.
How have the players embraced it so far?
It's an adjustment for sure, but they love the idea of it. They love the creativity behind it. They're really excited about it. I think the biggest thing is just trying to figure out what exactly is it going to look like. You have a good sense of it just kind of looking at the XFL tape, but it's a lot different when the kickoff team is starting from the 40 versus the 35 in the XFL, just because of that spacing and that distance is much more different. And, you're talking about elite ball carriers in our league, having that space where the timing of it is going to be a lot faster. Being able to defeat blocks is going to be a premium in our league. And so with that, guys are excited about it. They're excited about what the schematics that come with it, the personnel that you have to provide for it. So with that, it's going to be good.
Some people have talked about a need for maybe tinkering it early on. Is there an aspect of it that you see could, a change happen, or that you desire a change to happen?
Yeah, I think it's for it to all be on paper at the moment. It all looks good in my eyes, and we'll see how the rules play out, especially when you start talking about post-snap penalties. Maybe you might get an unsportsmanlike after a touchdown. How is that going to be assessed? Maybe there's a roughing the kicker after an extra point. What is that going to look like, kicking off from the 20 versus having to kick off from the 50? Some of those things, I think, will be something that'll be interesting to see how we want to really set the rules when we do get ready for the regular season.
There was a stat about in the XFL, the kicker got involved kind of a lot on the tackles. What is your feeling about how often the kicker is going to have to be kind of a defender there?
Yeah, for sure. That's a big one. And we did a study. The kicker does kind of get heavily involved just because things are happening a lot faster, just because of the ball blocker relationship that does take place on the play. And so, you have to find ways. There's a lot of different ways schematically and how you can really deviate and really kind of have your kicker stay out of it. I don't want to kind of get into depth with that, but there are ways for you to be able to kind of keep your kicker out of the play. But in the XFL, they were heavily involved. And it's a little scary, to be honest with you.
What do you like noticeably different among across teams, or do you think eventually it's just going to?
Say again. One time.
Do you think the play itself is going to look noticeably different across teams, or do you think over time it'll just kind of?
For sure, I believe that within the first 3 weeks, I think that this play is going to win and lose a lot of teams' games because eventually, this league does a great job of adapting and picking up, schematics, really truly what's going on. And, that's really what make us kind of elite is, being able to adapt and pick up on things. But I do see it being a heavily impact. It is going to look a lot different, especially for the fans. The first couple of games, it'll be an adjustment for sure. But once we kind of get into the groove of things and everybody kind of sees what's going on, what is everyone doing from a kickoff standpoint? What are the schematics from a KOR standpoint? People will really start to pick up on it. It might start kind of look same a little bit with a couple of tweaks here and there.
What are you thinking return-wise right now as far as who the returners would be? And are you definitely two, or do you think there'll be times when you would have one?
Yeah, for sure. It'll be dependent on really who are we playing against, what are their tendencies are in terms of kick direction, what type of ball are they kicking, do we have a beat on where the ball is actually being kicked? If we don't, then maybe we need to put two back there. The consensus around the league is that that is going to require two returners back there, just because kickers have the ability to place it wherever they want to, whether it's a fastball, a squib ball, a knuckleball, a high ball. And so, you really want to, the biggest thing is getting the football back. That's the priority, is getting the football back. So, ideally you want to be able to make sure you can assure that, so that might require you to have two people back there.
Who are you thinking personnel-wise here that fits that mold?
Obviously we have Kane, Brandon Powell is an option. We have a couple other guys. I don't want to kind of get into that too much, Kev. But we have a lot of elite ball carriers back there who's well capable. And the thing is that because the kickoff rule has changed, it's really also changed who you want to put back there, just because of the ability of, from a schematic standpoint, what you're able to do with those guys and how fast really blocks actually occur, the vision, the speed, your ability to set up returns. And so with that, there's certain characteristics that you really like and you really, really appreciate out of some guys who you might not have appreciated as much when from the old kickoff rule.
Coach, with making a decision at kicker, just what has impressed you overall with Will, and then how does it, impact him to be able to just focus on all the reps now?
Yeah, that was an unfortunate situation. We really, really wanted to continue to see John Parker Romo. I thought he was doing a great job. And, Will did too, because when he first came in here, he understood to know what he was up against. Like, to get the job wasn't going to just be given to him because he was a draft pick. He truly wanted to earn the right of his teammates, the respect of his teammates, and win the job. And, we got to a point, obviously, where there were some roster changes that need to happen. And as a result, we kind of had to make that move. But Will has done an unbelievable job since he's gotten here. You all kind of got a good look of what he's capable of doing. And, he's steady Eddie. He's a guy that he's really maintains a good neutral mindset. And you truly never know when he's in a good mood or when he's in a bad mood. He can go perfect on a day and he's still just even keel. And it's like, that was a good day. And he'll tell you, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, that was a 5. And it's like, damn, you went perfect, and he hit every ball and went all the way back to 60. And he's like, nah, that wasn't good enough. And so he has expectations, and he has high standards for himself, and that's really what you appreciate. And we've gone into discussion now that he is our kicker on, what season goals look like and what training camp goals look like. And I have an idea of what it looks like, and he's kind of telling me like that's not good enough. And I appreciate that. I really appreciate the edginess that he has, and the mindset that he has, and that's the reason why we drafted him, because of that mindset.
With Will, with the new kickoff rule, are you working at all on technique, just as far as the potential differences?
Yeah, absolutely. You look at, there's so many different situations that come up in the game. At the end of game situations, do we want to put it into play? What type of ball do we hit? So we've been throwing out a lot of different, variations of kicks, just kind of throw them off guard, depending on what it is, directionally hitting it one way, hitting hot balls, mixing it up. And so there's a lot of different variations of kicks that we've been working through, just in case, there's, any situation does occur and the head man's like, hey, I want this type of ball. We need to make sure that we're well prepared for that.
Matt, how do you handle it in the preseason in terms of trying to get reps on those things versus not showing your hand?
Yeah, that's always an interesting thing, man, in terms of what do you want to show in the preseason. Obviously the good thing about it is that now that we've shrunk the field in terms of how much running is involved, we're able to work as much as we need to in practice, and so it might not be a need to actually show, what we're actually going to do when the season rolls around from a preseason standpoint. So, maybe we might show some things, maybe we might not. We're still kind of working through, if we really truly want to show our hand, before week one.
Matt, do you have any non-kickers who have raised their hands and said they're happy to kick?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have a couple guys on the roster who does have the ability to kick, and we've been kind of working through that. It's just, you just got to be a little careful and tread lightly with that, just in terms of, because these position players, they don't truly know like what a kicking warm-up looks like per se. They might just finish practice and think like, all right, I've been running around all practice. I can go, my legs feel good. I can go, try to go hit a 50-yard, 60-yard kickoff. But you got to be a little bit careful with that. They got to understand, though, like the groins, a lot of soft tissue injuries occur. So there's a proper way to warm up, and there's a proper way to go about kind of doing that. So we just got to be careful with who we put out there and make sure we're working in the right way. The last thing we want is for, running back to dang tears growing because he's trying to work on kickoffs post practice. That'll get me fired.
Is that a serious thing that you're taking seriously, or just something that people?
Yeah, for sure. If we can find a guy who can consistently put it in play or put it in the end zone or put it within the landing zone, we'll definitely do that because it's an advantage, right? It's an advantage. Obviously, they aren't allowed to go beyond the 50-yard line until the ball is caught or hit the ground, but if you do add a guy in there who is unaccounted from a KOR standpoint and he's a free hitter, you'll want to do that.
Now, when you talk about skill sets and attributes that change a little bit here, does straight line speed become a little less of a factor in your returners? Because
to a degree, it does, yes. But there's still enough spacing to where a guy is able to work an edge, get a guy stacked, and still be able to use his speed to his advantage. Especially considering, the personnel out there. Will it be bigger guys out there who might not have great lateral feet or great lateral agility to be able to keep up with some of these speed guys? So, there's a little bit of a back and forth in terms of, now does it really nullify and void guys who are big-time speed players or, lighter bodies out there? It just kind of depends on schematically how you divvy it up and, where you place those guys at.
How does this change scouting for you, just looking at what opposing special teams units are going to do from week to week?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I personally think that the personnel is gonna stay somewhat the same. It just might be you might have your starting linebacker out there now, or your starting safety, not necessarily at that safety position, and maybe more as a true penetrating guy. But I think that the personnel is somewhat stay the same right there, just in terms of you only get 53 people and 48 people dressed, and so you got to utilize what you got. I don't think it'll change much. But from a scouting standpoint, it'll be interesting. You definitely got to be very, very attentive to the detail and do a great job of identifying, certain guys, where they line up at, how are they truly using this guy? Are they trying to hide him as a safety? And kind of those aspects of the game.
Last couple. Matt, Theo Jackson has really carved out himself a role in the defense. What have you seen from his development over the last couple of years since you guys picked him up and then he was
Theo Jackson has done nothing but he's an ascendant player in this league, and what you love the most about, I always talk about, there's two things when it comes to special teams players that I really look at, and it's versatility and courage. And Theo Jackson has exactly those two attributes that you look for. He's versatile. You can match him up on safeties, running backs, linebackers, receivers, right? And so with that ability, it gives you the access to do any and everything with this guy. Again, he's an ascendant player. He's just a flat-out football player, and that's what you appreciate. He's smart. He's instinctive. He does, if he does anything incorrect, it's a one quick fix, and he doesn't make that same mistake again. And the biggest thing is he's inconsistent. He shows up every day. He works hard. He's got unbelievable respect from his teammates. He's attentive to the details. He's very intentional about his work. Every single day he comes out and he has a goal of what he wants to do and how he's going to go about doing it. And, he's truly setting himself up to be a true leader of this team and a valuable asset for us.
With one of the appeals of the changes being increasing player safety, have there been instances in your career, either from players or coaches, of them voicing a desire for the game to be safer?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's so funny, myself back when I was playing, I was a hard hitter. And, I look at the game now on the sidelines and I'm like, dang, this is a violent game that we're playing, violent game. And so you look at it, the Guardian caps being added, I think is a huge bonus. It doesn't, for the swag of it, it's not a good look from a swag standpoint, but it protects players, right? It protects players. And so I'm appreciative of that. I'm appreciative of them switching the kickoff rule to try to reduce concussions and limit the high-speed collision that does take place. And so the NFL, obviously with it being the most popular sport in the world, you want to find ways to keep players healthy, right? Keep players healthy. That's the biggest goal at the end of the day. And so, I'm really appreciative of the rule changes that's taking place and of really trying to emphasize player safety. And, there are guys that come to us with concern of how can we make the game safer. Cool. Appreciate y'all.
All right, DeCon, what kind of a fine mess have you gotten us into now with this kickoff thing?
Oof.
NFL, the A topic out of it, okay? And we knew this by hearing it and reading through it, but the way special teams coordinator Matt Daniels laid out how the early stages of the season he believes will go. And Matt's very open with stuff like this. And when he casts his gaze the way to things like this, generally speaking, they happen. And he said there are going to be games decided the first few weeks of the NFL season because of the kickoff situation.
Yeah.
Which means it's just abundantly apparent to me. There are many of that variety who believe we are sitting on a National Football League record for kick returns in a season, kick return touchdowns in a season. But the A topic out of it, NFL coverage guys start at the 40. It's the 35 in the XFL. And that 15 feet means a lot when you can't take off until the ball hits the ground or the ball is touched or the ball is caught. So the imagery is really all we have right now. We like Matt said, you can look at XFL tape, but they start from the 35. So they're closer to the blockers and the returner. Well, the NFL, and undoubtedly in an attempt to have more explosivity within the kick return game, that they're going to have the coverage guys start at the 40. So that 5 yards, that 15 feet right there, man, that matters a lot. I guess I didn't realize how much it mattered until hearing Matt yesterday.
Yeah, the whole thing's going to continue to look weird. I actually, what keyed in about this making a difference, I mean, and players lining up, it's going to look different. And the return team, they line up at the 35, so they got to stand 5 yards away from each other. And then when the ball is hit or caught in the quote unquote landing zone, then it's absolutely gladiator time. Yeah. So but the biggest thing for me, I think, what keyed on in that conversation is not even where they're lining up, et cetera. The point is that it's weird and different. And so the acclimation period, even they can take all these reps during practices and things, but their end of things, it making a difference in games early in the season. He's talking about mistakes. He's talking about human error. He's talking about opportunities where somebody isn't thinking right. Somebody's still, again, getting used to a new process, and teams being able to take advantage of it. So the importance of our squad understanding the new rules and all of that. What happens if it hits the ground and then rolls into the end zone, what the touchback means. I mean, you can have a touchback on the 20, the 30, or the 40 based on this new kickoff rule. And so games being decided by it, that lends me to believe that there's going to be chaos. That's what he's talking about, that there will be chaos early on. Now, as we you look at it on paper, by the way, I'm reading the rules in front of me. It's very difficult to visualize without the accompaniment of an XFL video to go along with it. I think that within the first 4 weeks, I'd say within the first month, I think we're going to start looking at this, especially if there are unique plays that are generated out of it. You talk about forcing the action and forcing returns, and then you're seeing those touchdowns. I think people ultimately, if that takes place, they're going to love it. They're going to hate it if they're on the wrong side of one, but they're going to love it if they're on the right side of one. And it takes a non-play, right? You know, every day, I mean, colonoscopy aside. And boom! I'm sorry, your boom has rung hollow. Your boom has rung hollow with all of the touchbacks, PA.
Yeah, we'll see.
And so now, if they're forcing the action, the boom. And boom! The boom is back to life. If they're forcing action and forcing returns, I think it's a positive thing. And I think after a month of the first time of getting to see this game by game by game, the average person will easily pick up the rules and all the nuances of it. I think fans are going to love it. I'm excited to see it in motion in an NFL game.
The catchers and receivers can move around.
Yeah.
Okay. So therefore, we got a boom. And you got a returner who can time it and run up on it.
Yep.
So he goes full speed. But the others, with the ones trying to catch him and trap him and hit him and stop him, they're not full speed, and he is.
They can't move until he touches it.
Wow.
So, I mean, you got Devin Hester, the new school Devin Hester back there with Soulja Boy playing, and he's bouncing around, and everyone's going nuts. And the Cordero Pattersons of the world, what do you think happens when you give Cordero Patterson 10-yard run-up in motion near full speed, right near that quote-unquote landing zone / preparing line, whatever the heck it is.
Right.
It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun. It's new. It takes a effectively pointless play and brings some life to it.
Which teams will expose flaws in the system quickest? And here, and I'll bring this up with Ben Lieber, it's a no chancer or a minimal chancer. Justin Jefferson would be amazing at this kick returning situation. Absolutely amazing because of his quick twitch slide and making people miss. But like Matt said, I mean, you put Justin Jefferson or somebody out there and we got a problem on a kick and you lose this guy for 5 games, that's how you get fired. Aggressive coordinators will line drive trying to wreak havoc, and those of the more conservative ilk will bang it out of the end zone. Somebody who played a lot of special teams during his career, Ben Lieber, he joins us next.